Love you, Linda. Love you.
In the courthouse the other day, in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
Drums of war beat through the night. Victory, oh what a sight. Oh brave souls in the storm, raise your swords, no more to mourn. Giant hearts in battle form, legends forged and never torn.
And welcome to Justice Serve TV. Time for a snack. Are you
Hi,
hungry?
yeah. I'd like to have a little tea with my snack,
All
although
right.
maybe not, because I have to put water in my tea. And right after we do our little snack here, I
yeah.
may not want to put water in my tea. So,
That's
Michael, what's all this about?
That's a very good tease.
Yeah.
So this is a little more than a snack. It's a very important show we've got for you. Raise your hand if you know what a PFAS is. Raise your hand. Do you? No, nobody. I'm going to give this a try. Polyfluoroalkyl substances. Is that right? Alkyl substances. Alkyl. They're like part of a. Well, we're going to find a whole bunch more about what they are, but they're in things you may not even believe they are in, and they are not good for you. Anybody? Yeah, I think Apple Watch bands, they've got a problem with those. There was a movie a couple years ago that was called Dark Waters, and it had to do with not this particular issue, but a very similar issue. I don't know if you saw this or not. It was with Mark Ruffalo. It was really good.
Still you did nothing.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains.
Hi, Grammars.
What are you doing here?
Your grandma tells me her grandson's some fancy environment lawyer down in Cincinnati.
I am a corporate defense attorney.
So?
I defend chemical companies.
Well, now you can defend me.
How many did you lose?
190.
190 cows.
You tell me nothing's wrong here.
It's a small matter for a family friend. Help a guy who needs it.
The farmer or you? That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
I'm seeing documents I don't understand.
They're hiding something. That chemical.
What if you drank it? Drank it? It's like saying, what if I swallowed a tire?
What if whatever's killing those cows is in the drinking water?
At DuPont, better living through chemistry. It's our DNA.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years. You knew, still you did nothing.
You want to flush your career down the toilet for some cowhand?
You want to take everything that you know and turn it against an iconic American company, like an informant. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
They have all the money, all the firepower, and they'll use it. I know. I was one of them. Our government is captive to DuPont. They're trying to force you to make me stop.
He was willing to risk his job, his family, for a stranger who needed his help.
The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us. We protect us. We do.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God, I have the chills. And just a little piece of trivia. Mark Ruffalo is sort of a neighbor of mine. He lives in the next town over in the Catskills in Sullivan County.
Here's another trivia. Todd Haynes, who is the director, is the brother of my son's early soccer coach.
This is great. We have connections.
Sean
6 degrees
Haynes.
of separation.
Well, I know, really. Well, we have a better connection. We have Tracy Paulsen. Tracy is here. She's an attorney representing these PFAS cases, which are slightly different from the Dark Waters movie, but I think the theme is very similar. Again, I'm going to try it. Polyfluoroalkyl. That part I don't have quite right. Substances. Help me, Tracy.
Your guess is as good as mine. I just like to abbreviate them as PFAS.
All right. So tell us what is the specific issue that you're litigating? Who are the targets? What are the products? Give us the story.
Sure. Just for background, PFAS actually are a group of 12,000 chemicals. Totally, they're man-made. They were developed in the 1940s for their resistance to heat, oil, and water. They're used in everyday products like nonstick cookware. They're used in AFF firefighting foam. They're used for military uses, in industrial operations. They're actually possibly in your dental floss. They're used in women's makeup. They're used across the board in textiles, for water resistant in clothes and furniture. So over time, these chemicals have leached into many different sources, the soil and often the aquifer. So the number one exposure for humans is through drinking water. That's everyday people. There's also exposure through occupational sources as well. If you are a firefighter and you used AFFF foam, which contains PFAS chemicals, and if you worked on military bases, these were huge areas where PFAS chemicals were used. Again, they're as fire retardants, so they're used in military operations to make sure that, you know, fires and heat and oil are contained. And when that's happened, they seep into the groundwater, and then they come into the aquifer and the surface water, and that's where people are getting sick. So currently, if we go back, Mark Ruffalo's was spearheading what Bob Belay had started way back with DuPont in 1998. That was centered around one of the legacy PFAS chemicals, PFOA, which was utilized in manufacturing of Teflon. And over time, DuPont just phased this out in 2013. And these chemicals, what makes them particularly dangerous is that number one, they're persistent. They don't break down in the environment. So what makes them wonderful in mechanical processes and industrial processes is the also thing that makes them dangerous. So they persist in the environment and in the human body indefinitely. Secondly, they bioaccumulate in the human body. What that means is even low levels of exposure over time means that this can accumulate in your body quicker than you can expel the chemical from your body. So over time, this builds up in your blood, and then it can build up in people's organs, particularly in their kidneys, their thyroid, and their liver. And what they've discovered, and I could go on and on about this, but way back with Bob Belay's study in DuPont and what dark water is all about, Bob had filed a class action lawsuit in 2001, and DuPont settled for $70 million. Part of that settlement is they put together a scientific study called the C8 panel. So the C8 panel studied over about 69,000 people around this in West Virginia, around the plant, studying their blood over time to see what the effects of this chemical were. And they said that there is a probable link between between kidney cancer and testicular cancer. There was the highest correlation. Also thyroid cancer and liver cancer, thyroid disease, and also ulcerative colitis. And these specific injuries are what are the basis for the personal injury lawsuits and also the AFF lawsuits for the current MDL. Multi-district.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I want to talk about that in a second. But let me just ask you one question. Is there a test that you take, a blood test that tells you whether you have this bioaccumulation of PFAS in your system? And what is it?
So you can take a blood test. Your insurance will not pay for it. You'd have to call up different providers to see if they would do it. So it measures the level of PFAS in your blood in nanograms, essentially. So every human being on Earth has some level of PFAS in their blood, regardless of exposure, no matter where you live. It's found in the Arctic. It's found on the tallest mountain. It's found in every human being. They say 99% of Americans. And so typically, if you had low exposure, it could be around 1 to 2 nanograms. People who've been around proximities where there's a lot of dumping, industrial areas, could be between 10 and 20, nanograms. Some are up to 100. Now, the thing is, you could even have low exposure levels over time that still have the same effects. So this is sort of like a latency type of claim like asbestos, meaning that if you're exposed, it could take 5 to 40 years for you to develop one of these diseases. after you've been exposed.
And I know on your website you have, I have to remove Michael's thing
Let me get
first, I
that out of
think.
here for you. Hold on
Yeah.
just a moment. Let me, while we're sorting this out, let me ask you this, because I have my physical coming up next week, and I'm sure I'll have a blood panel that they draw. Is there a particular test or sub-test that I would have to request to get that done?
You could request it through your doctor, but
Mhm.
they most likely will not provide it to you. No, unless you are in it's a hotbed area or something like that.
Interesting.
They won't. There's places. Trying to think of the name. I forget the name, but if you want to order it privately, you can. The panel probably costs between $600 to $1,000 for the blood test.
Wow.
Wow. And then on your website, you have what you're talking about here, the PFAS. And everyone hears PFAS, but no one knows exactly what a PFAS is. And I think that's what we're trying to educate here, that this is pretty frightening. But there is a panel of tests to know what is. Now I know. Not hearing me?
I can't. I heard part of it.
Okay. Are you? You're not hearing me. I don't know what is going on.
Here's some bizarre.
We have a bizarre hearing thing.
I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now? I
Yes.
feel like a commercial now. I think that I'm beginning to get Orwellian here, that companies are after us as we're talking about PFAS here. I feel maybe Karen Silkwood, people that look at movies and think that companies are after you. And of course, we all know the story about Erin Brockovich's movie. They weren't after her, but you get get a little bit nervous there. But I did pull up, and I want you to comment on this. If I can add it to the stage, hold on. We're going to go into our slides. My computer, apparently, because what I did pull up has disappeared. So I'm going to now upload it and add it. And what it is from the EPA. And it's still something listed on their website. And this is supposed to be, and you can find it on their website, what is the appropriate level dealing with PFAS and what you said, PFOS, which that sounds like they're the ones that we should all be concerned about in our drinking water. Is there a scientifically established appropriate level, or is this advisory just garbage? In other words, it's an advisory, but it doesn't really tell you what we should have in our system.
Right. So the short answer is that no level of exposure to PFAS chemicals is safe for humans. So 0 exposure is the safest. There is no safe exposure. The EPA, this has been evolving. Back in 2016, I believe they initiated what they called maximum contaminant levels, which formulated the levels that water municipalities could have, and they could not exceed 70 parts per trillion. And then that has evolved as the dangers of these chemicals have become known, right? And the two major ones are PFOA and PFOS. Those are the legacy chemicals produced by 3M and used in manufacturing processes by DuPont. There were 4 other chemicals in that as well that are more short chain, including with Gen X. And in 2024, Biden put through a mandate stating that every state could not have measurements in the public drinking water system of any amount greater than 4 parts per trillion. And what that really translates to in useful terms is picture 4 drops of water in a 20 Olympic size swimming pools, a volume that size. That's what they said could be safe. And that's even
how.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, wait a second. So 4 drops of water. We all have a dropper. Michael, this is where we need the dropper. We needed the dropper.
Don't have the dropper. I don't have 20 Olympic-sized pools either.
I don't have 20 Olympic-sized pools either. So that's what's safe. That's all you can have. So tell us, this is in everything then. This is when you wash your dishes. You could get, I guess, runoff from the PFAS, if I must say that. Or what's the difference between a PFOA and a PFAS and a PFOS?
Oh, they're just two different chains of carbon, essentially. So PFAS chemicals are basically carbon fluoride bonds, and each one of them has their own unique structure or chemical fingerprinting. So there's 12,000 of them out there, around 12,000 that are manufactured. They're all different variations of one another. So I'm not a chemist by any means, but those were the two legacy main ones that are also have been listed in 2024 as hazardous substances under CERCLA. So there will be more stringent regulations on that for cleanup. But what also happened with the new administration in 2025 is they rescinded 4 out of the 6 that were mandated to have maximum contaminant levels under the federal government. So there were 4 that were supposed to be 10 parts per trillion, like Gen X is a short chain PFAS compound, and that's no longer measured. And it's
What is it, Gen X? What is Gen X?
It's another PFAS compound. So it's a short chain that is being used as a substitute for PFOA in many instances in consumer products. So sometimes, you'll see something that says PFOA free or even PFAS free. There's a lot of greenwashing going on out there now too. So just because it says that does not mean that it's safe. It means that these long chain compounds that are those are the ones that subsist in your body and in the environment for so long. The shorter chain ones may stay less, they don't stay as well or as long in your body, but they're more mobile, meaning that they can transfer throughout the environment and throughout the water at faster proximities, and they're highly toxic and they're not studied, and they're extremely more difficult to actually filter out.
How about in your body? How about in your body? If they get into your body, can they travel through all the organs up to your brain? Do we know what the transfer rate and all of this is? Because right now you're scaring the living daylights out of me.
Yeah. So something like Gen X is through your body quickly. It could be a few days, right? So the problem is that it's constant exposure, because these are things, there's a problem with disposal because they never break down. When you filter these out of water, or you take them out of a landfill, then they have to be put somewhere else. So they're either incinerated, they go back up into the atmosphere, right? Or they're dug deep into wells, or they're put into landfills and then they leach again. So it's just a problem of almost moving around these chemicals, and they subsist for thousands of years indefinitely. So
you mentioned this greenwashing, and I think Gore-Tex was one of the companies that was accused of that. Describe that. It sounds to me like lying, but describe what that is and how products like Gore-Tex have been affected.
Yeah, it's misleading advertising, to the consumer, stating that something is safe, that it might be, you would assume that PFAS free or Gore-Tex means that their danger of exposure is minimal, if not nothing, right? But there might not be PFAS in, like, for instance, in Gore-Tex in the surface, but still PFAS chemicals are utilized in the manufacturing process to produce the water-resistant material that is still on the product.
Yeah. And as a golfer, I know those kinds of, that gear is heavily promoted.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing is, now you mentioned there's a bunch of litigation going on, and I didn't put the litigation site, but I want you to talk about the PFAS litigation site.
Yep. So currently, what spurred this in around 2019 with all this, in 2020, a lot of these cases became centralized in a multi-district litigation, and the U.S. District Court in South Carolina under Judge Gergel. And those were for a variety. So one class was the water municipalities. One was for AFFF, which is firefighter exposure. So firefighting foam has high levels of PFAS in firefighting foam. So firefighters were exposed to extremely high levels during their job. So that's occupational exposure, far exceeding drinking water. The other were property owners, and then the other were the personal injury lawsuits, which are everyday people across the United States that are drinking water from their public water source or their wells. They say that over half of the water suppliers in the United States have levels above the EPA standards of 4 parts per trillion. So in these areas, individuals who were diagnosed in, say 2010, if the state had a discovery rule right, because this was not widely popular or known, could still bring forth a claim if they were drinking water for more than 1 year from one of these sources. Because in the last 10 years, there were initiatives on measuring PFAS in water. So as long as they had exposure for over a year, they had a disease that was one of the injuries, which were the 6 I had described before: kidney and testicular, ulcerative colitis, liver cancer, thyroid disease, and thyroid cancer. Then you could file a claim and be part of the MDL. So that has really evolved, and these are the next wave of litigation to be heard. Actually, the doors closed to new filings under the simplified process in September. So the litigation's moving forward. The first bellwether trials they were supposed to be in October. They've been moved out until early this winter, but no date's been set. And those will be the key cases for kidney cancer and testicular cancer for both the defendants and the plaintiffs.
Now, I had a client who'd come to me from the military. That was a different action, right? Dealing with water. There was a fund set up to pay people who were veterans who, their kids ended up, either stillborn or dying. That's a different situation. Or was it all related to PFAS type litigation? But it was the military. I forget the act that was set up.
Yeah, that's different than the current MDL litigation now, but it's another avenue because this just is such a pervasive problem. The water municipalities that were part of the MDL settled in 2023 with one of the largest class action settlements in history. So 3M settled for a little bit over $10 billion to help clean up water systems across the United States and get PFAS out of their water.
How do you do that? Let me ask you this. How do you do that? Michael, you're the best chemist I know.
Yeah, I was a teacher's assistant in chemistry, so I'm sure this is gonna pay off right now. Yeah, I don't know. Is there a filter, or is it a chemical filtering that you do?
So they say that there's galvanized activated carbon, which is one way to filter water. And obviously the PFAS is absorbed into the carbon filter. You still have to dispose of the carbon filter that contains the chemicals. And also reverse osmosis, which the PFAS is collected in a membrane. So that's highly effective. They say up to 99% effective of removing harmful PFAS substances. There's also ion exchange. So these technologies, to my knowledge, are the most mainstream, and those are implemented, they're going to be now in all these water treatment plants, across the country.
Let's take a step back to the, person at home opening the tap, whether it's from well water on their property, shared well water, or municipal service. How do they test?
Good question. There's really no at-home test that you can buy at Home Depot to test for PFAS. So it's very expensive. You have to hire a private certified lab to come out and test your water. Yeah.
Linda, new business. Make a note. We're going to open up a at-home PFAS test kit.
Seriously, that's right. Seriously, you test for everything else.
No-brainer. You get a sample of your water, you send it to a lab somewhere. You have an arrangement with that lab that they do like a volume of these things, and they have that test all set up so that regular folk can rest a little easier.
Yeah.
And now I'm scared about my well water because I know it's tested, but it's not tested for PFAS, and it sounds like it's so ubiquitous all over the place that we're going to be testing for it. I mean, that's going to be, you're absolutely right. I mean, why can't we just put a dipstick like I do with my hot tub? Dipstick, okay, let's see, PFAS, okay.
Yeah, it should be, and if you have a well system, absolutely you need to have it individually tested. If you drink from the public drinking water supply, your town or water municipality should test for this and report it on your website. So you can see each year what the tests were for the various and whether they're above the state or federal drinking water standards. Again, federal have been rescinded, so you got to be careful with that. But the same technologies you can put in your home, just to give you something optimistic. You can have, a galvanized, active carbonated system inside your home. And if you couple that with reverse osmosis for your drinking water at the tap with what you cook with and what you drink, then that's a pretty substantial safeguard, which they say that will help rid of, 99% of.
Oh, okay. So let me give you the question that follows up from that. Everyone drinks bottled water. I even drink bottled coffee. Okay. Let's assume I actually got this bottled water somewhere, a place where I was shopping earlier today.
Is it going to be in my doers?
Right. Is it going to be, is it in our bottled water if our bottled water is not in a plastic container? And if it's in a plastic container, I assume the answer is yes, but the bottled water.
Yeah. So it depends, as every answer is in law. So yes, some bottled water does have PFAS in it, and they vary depending upon who the manufacturer is. So if you go on and do a little bit of research, it'll tell you who and who does not. There was one company in Hawaii, there was some volcanic, I don't remember the name of it, that supposedly has 0 PFAS in the bottled water, which is plastic, but then you have to deal with the, bioplastics. But
and how's the bottle, which is crazy expensive. Some of those more exotic waters are not cheap.
They're very expensive.
Yeah, I know. The one I was drinking went up a lot. It was called Holstein water. It was from overseas. Supposedly, it had nothing. It had only good stuff in it. But who really? So I'm just sitting here. I'm thinking to myself, PFAS. I mean, maybe my makeup has PFAS. Everything now.
I'm sure it does. I'm confident it does.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, let's try and leave this on a positive note. Are we making progress? Is the work you're doing, is it helping? What's the future look like?
So I believe it's helping, as where regulation can fail in some things. Right now, I'm not so optimistic on the current administration, but I think that's going to change. And we have a lot of states that are enacting their own regulations, which are, spearheading, like Maine wants to eradicate any PFAS and non-essential products by 2030. All of that, I think law, this tort claim is huge to create change. That's why I became a lawyer. So if we hold the, corporations accountable for putting profits over people and their safety, then that sends off alarm bells and hopefully will create change. DuPont has, 3M has phased out PFOS, and then DuPont's no longer using PFOA. There's a huge legacy of this on our hands, a lot of cleanup to be done. But I think the one thing that's positive is now this is something that everybody knows. Whereas even a few years ago, 5 years ago, unless you saw dark water, it was probably highly unlikely that you even knew what this was. So it's now a global conversation. The EU is looking to ban this. Countries are putting initiatives on really limiting this. So I think there's a lot of positive change happening now. So
and can somebody still come to you who thinks they have been wronged by or have cancer or have some effect from a PFOA or PFOS or a PFAS? Can they still come to you, or is litigation ended?
They can still come to me. I will say that the barriers to join and litigate now for filings with the MDL are much more stringent. You have to have your own expert instead of sharing experts. It's going to be a lot more costly. So in that realm, sometimes I think some firms will be less inclined, to take, because they'll be so cost prohibitive and expensive. But I think that will open up. And once this happens, there'll be a, whirlwind to open in state courts as well for people with claims. So yes, people can still absolutely come to me.
Very good. And we have the contact info. We'll put that in the description, right? Linda, you got that?
Yeah, I have her. I have it's right now. It's running down there on our scroll. Rightful Legal, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I have it down on the scroll. So if you go to Tracy's law site, it's www. You don't need that anymore, obviously, but it's rightfullegal.com. And you will find Tracy Paulsen there. She is based in Massachusetts, but she does this litigation all over the United States. So if you think you've been wrong, you may certainly call her. Or if you have any information, her to share information with you, you can see that she's happy to share information, educate us all, which is why she's on Justice Served TV with this snack, because I can't have my tea anymore. It has water.
Tracy, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Keep fighting the good fight, and we will check in with you to get an update on how this is progressing as you go along. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much. It was all my pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Take care.
Yeah, it's now you're all freaking out. You're freaking out.
I'm freaking out. I mean, I keep hearing people with PFAS, and Mark Ruffalo actually what got us interested. Not only Tracy, I will tell you all a little secret. Tracy's husband, and he's really lucky to be married to her, has been one of our guests on the show, Michael Del Signor. I will say that Tracy is his better half. I'm kidding you, Michael. Michael's also a great criminal defense
They're
lawyer.
co-equal halves. Is that what you're saying? They're
Yeah, they're co-equal halves. But we've had a lot of fun on the show this past week with people calling you my assistant, people calling me my husband's assistant. We've had a lot of fun on the show with that. But Mark Ruffalo he tweeted something about Dark Waters just within the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's definitely been, his experience with the film has made him an advocate. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And my God, rightly so. If you haven't seen it, it's worth your while to see.
It is.
And
it's a horror film that's based on reality, is what it is. So.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. And boy, did I just get educated. I don't know about you, but I feel I'm educated that I want to learn more about what it is. It's not just my water bottle with those little plastic things accumulating in my brain.
Diapers.
Anymore.
It's in kids' diapers.
Diapers?
Yeah.
So you have to watch out for your grandchildren. Oh my goodness gracious.
You're right. Now back to cloth diapers, I say. Yeah. So I did have a flashback to my high school days with the chemistry TA. Whew, that was frightening. But it did make me understand a little bit better what's happening. And if you folks don't understand it, get into it a little bit. Do what you have to do to make you.
And she has a lot.
You and your family. Yeah.
She has a lot on her site. She has a lot on her site, Michael. I know you. I want to steer you there because if you go to her site, you can read a lot about it.
Yep. Very good. All right, then. That's our little snack for the day, with or without the tea. I'm Michael Bryant.
I'm Linda Kenny Biden.
We're Oh, yes.
And yes, you have to hit that subscribe, like, share, and notify button, especially that subscribe button. Get us to our next level.
Very good. And try to do the right thing.
Riding flames, they charge with mine.